have seen her before. But where? I hope God gives you all the happiness. Let Him keep you away from pains and sorrows. Well, I think I have seen you before. Amazing. The bride has a beautiful face and good memory as well. If you remember me, how can you forget the advice that I gave you? I'll tell you about the third kind of men, okay? They're animals. How did you tame that animal? You played a role in poisoning my life, and I am poisoning your body in return.
What are you doing here?
It's such a special day for you. At least I have the right to wish you on this day.
I don't trust you.
That's strange. You are getting prepared for the wedding and you are questioning my loyalty. Fine. If you don't trust me, I'm not dying to get your trust.
This turmeric.
Rudra, don't touch it. It has... Show me, has your hand got...
Are you done with applying the turmeric? Drink some juice.
No, sister-in-law.
Alright, shall I get you something to eat?
What did you do, Lala? Come with me.
What are you
Come
doing?
on, stand up.
Leave me. Leave me. In front of everyone. What are you doing? Leave me. What? What are you doing? Leave! Leave me!
Stand still!
What are you doing? Leave! Leave me! Don't you dare touch me. I will commit suicide.
You're not going to survive anyway. The turmeric has been poisoned.
It's a lie. I'm sure this is some plan of yours.
There is no plan. Just trust me.
I don't trust you at all. Leave me!
Run Gracia was brought to you by
Pomo Tomato Mix,
Enthalatum Acne,
Frutally,
Fresh products.
Fonko Trading Enterprise.
Clinic Clear Cocoa Butter.
Cerelac,
Titan Jollof Mix.
Bermot.
Ideal Kitty. 1 year recording deal for 2 singles. 60,000 worth of airtime on Joy Prime. 10,000 Ghana cedis cash prize. Bragging rights of being crowned the ultimate winner Prime Studio. Remember that you still have what it takes to push your favorite contestant to the top. Who will it be? Naja, Good Boy Legend, Arte, Wally Sticker, Kisses. Vote for your favorite contestant by texting PS followed by the name of your favorite contestant to the short code 1903. Prime Studio, rock the world.
Mwakwaba ediba Hill International Homeopathic Clinic opayare sadia that is a hill and also oba yankurabata kasiye nankasa na ho Germany abrochimene oba PM e Ghana ha yeni abrofo e na di adwuma e wa ha.
Hi, how are you? I'm here with Hill, a well-experienced homeopathic clinic. They are here for you, just for you, to deliver reliable diagnostic results and to treat diseases. Diseases like kidney disorders, prostata disorders, diabetes, infertility, hepatitis and more.
Onia edien yadie ene hawo wachia wonya wayarisa ene dawani Ebra Hill International Homeopathic Clinic eho ena uhaw anu nyina etu ebetwa obepiema wa yayarisa bia yedi ufa die broni efren OPD eho ena anesifo a waje won tete ewo sukuu ahodrom ebeje ufa so wahwew wacheki BP wacheki other vitals no atwerotwero no ma okwan ama wakọ hu doctor ewo consulting room na owura ye consult.
Joy News Prime Headlines is brought to you by
On Joy News Prime, the minority in Parliament is pushing for the establishment of an independent commission of inquiry to probe the disappearance of the 100 grams of whitish powdery substance suspected to be cocaine.
Would immediately do what is important in the circumstances. Set up, absolutely, yes, to look into the circumstances, in which the 100 grams of cocaine went missing.
Also tonight, as controversy over Ghana's slow death rate rages on amidst claims figures are being massaged, the presidency is fighting back, insisting the figures put out by the Ghana Health Service is accurate.
The presidency doesn't generate any figures. We see the figures as you have seen here today, and then we then use the figures to plan and monitor whatever is going on.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Medical Association has warned in Ashanti region COVID-19 mortalities could increase if government does not set up a dedicated facility to receive COVID-19 positive patients. Also here on Joy News Prime, on your election headquarters, we'll hear from the Electoral Commission that is fighting off claims from the minority that it is phasing out over 6,000 polling stations in the upcoming mass registration exercise.
Having listened to her, I feel profoundly troubled in my heart for the future of Ghana's democracy.
True. The cluster system basically means that when we begin the registration, we are going to start at certain specific registration centers.
And coming up later in business.
Ministry of Finance and GRA launches new tax audit and quality assurance department.
We will step on toes, we will make some honest mistakes, but we will have open doors for dialogue and feedback. We will aggressively venture into uncharted waters, we will be friendly, we will need allies, and above all, we will need a support.
And later here on Joy News Prime, controversial Dodi Pepesu Nkwanta Highway developing potholes 4 years after contractors on the project received presidential praise for doing a great job.
You know, this is not what we expected. We thought this road was going to last. Initially, when it was constructed, it was a great relief. We're mainly food growers in this area, and so we need to have roads to transport our goods or our farm produce.
My name is Ernest Minu. We are live from our studios here at Kukum Limley on digital address GA09925339. Also on digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. This bulletin is also live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV 144. Please stay with us for details.
Joy News Prime Headlines was brought to you by
Hello there, details now. Government confronts skeptics casting doubt regarding the accuracy of COVID-19 data put out by the Ghana Health Service. Presidential Advisor for Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasari, says the presidency does not generate figures but only relies on the Ghana Health Service data as they provided. Pressure group Occupy Ghana, in a statement earlier today, stated that there have been more deaths than the Health Service has so far announced. The Information Ministry has been holding a news conference to respond to the concern and updating the nation on COVID-19 statistics. But before we get to the details of the news conference, let's go through sections of the press statement from Occupy Ghana on this issue. It says there is cause to suspect the death numbers are being massaged. The reported 54 deaths so far cannot be right. For instance, even though 38 deaths have been reported from the Ashanti region alone, less than 20 of those deaths are included in the national count. If the public suspects underreporting, etc., there will be loss of trust in reporting systems that will have consequences that will influence public behavioral responses. Several healthcare workers have been infected and some have died sadly. This points to the sad fact that our doctors and nurses and frontline workers do not have adequate PPEs. Our holding and treatment facilities are running out of space, and just a few days ago, the special advisor on health at the presidency lamented the fact that we do not have enough critical care staff. We also do not have enough critical beds. Now, we bring you reactions from government following that statement from the Occupy Ghana pressure group. Here's a report by Joseph Akable.
229 new cases has taken Ghana's case count to 12,193, with deaths rising by 4 to 58. Director General of the Ghana Health Service says some patients are severely ill.
As at yesterday, the report we have in the total number of positives are 12,193 cases out of 255,971 persons tested at a positivity rate of 4.76%. We have 4,326 recoveries so far, but we maybe because there's new evidence about the behavior of the virus, and so we may be looking at all that event to look at our discharge policy so that we'll be able to get more people off who really do not need our attention no more. We have recorded so far, declared 58 deaths. The last 4 deaths which was added are all in Greater Accra, 3 males and a female. So that leaves our active cases to about 7,813. Currently, there are 13 severe cases with 4 who are critical and ventilators.
He also explained the inquiry government carries out when a patient dies of the virus.
What we are talking about is not about the recovery. The recovery is more like a viral recovery, which is still the two negatives. What we are talking about is reviewing evidence on discharges. There's evidence, WHO has come up with 3 protocols. The first one was in March, there was the second one in April, and the last one, which was on the 27th of May. We are talking about the shedding of so if I'm positive, how long does it take me to spread? So they are saying it takes about maximum by 11th day, you are no more shedding the virus. And so if I'm not shedding the virus, should I be in isolation? We are no more a threat. And so we don't have to wait for 2 negatives before such a person is discharged. If the person is sick and recovers, they are recommending that if you have 3 more days of no complaints, the person can be discharged from COVID. But if you are there with your hypertension, you can continue managing your hypertension. So these are the things that we are looking at.
The presidency doesn't generate any figures. We see the figures as you have seen here today. And then we then use the figures to plan and monitor whatever is going on. He has shown you exactly the regions and the districts where we're having the COVID-19 cases. So we then target the regions and the districts where we have to send resources there. So I want to repeat once again, we don't generate any figures, we don't manipulate any figures at the presidency, or for that matter, at the presidential task force level.
Ghana's borders remain shut, but government has so far allowed some 856 citizens to come into the country on an assisted program. Foreign Minister Shelley Ayoko-Botwe gave some details.
The government of Ghana decided to assist in the evacuation of Ghanaians who are stranded abroad owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, 856 Ghanaians have been assisted to come back home.
Concerns have, however, emerged on the cost of mandatory self-isolation being carried out. She offered this explanation as well as hinting of steps to address the challenge.
It is difficult for the task force to get hotels that are willing for their hotels to be used as for quarantine. That is a major problem. And so the hotels that have agreed are the ones that are being used. The logistics to try and, first of all, make sure that the health authorities visit them as they normally would will be a problem. Also, the security services would have to be posted at these quarantine centers or these hotels.
Let's go to the phone lines now and do some interrogation on this matter. We are joined by Kweku Sedbefia, who is a member of Occupy Ghana. Thank you very much, Mr. Sedbefia, for your time here on Joy News Prime. Now, 2 of your claims, one on the numbers and the second one on the issue of space at the treatment centers, have been debunked by the Ghana Health Service and the Presidential Advice on Health. Do you still stand by those claims?
Absolutely, because, what the Director of Health did confirm was that there were discrepancies between the numbers being churned out by the region and the numbers being churned at the national level.
How is that?
And please say again.
How is that? We heard him clearly say that the figures as they put out is what is accurate, and we should go by that.
No. What they said was that they needed to validate the results before declaring it at the national level. Our accusation was the fact that Ashanti region, for example, had churned out 38 deaths. The amount in that number that had been captured by the national system was 20. That's a difference of 18 deaths unaccounted for. And to that was the response that they needed to validate to be sure that indeed people that were, they were claiming to have died.
But validating the results, validating the results does not necessarily mean an admission that the figures are being massaged, which is the point you make.
Did you listen to the press statements of the minister? He confirmed the fact that what they were receiving from the regions, they needed to validate. And he did support the idea that indeed what could come from the regions could differ from what National was churning out. Our contention was this, that if the number of inspections coming from the region were accepted and reflected as such on the national platform, and then the number of recovery also had the same effect, they were also accepted. Why were the number of the dead different? This was really our contention. And our contention was in line with the fact that we needed to find out if indeed government really planned for us to live with the virus or whether it really wanted to aggressively deal with it.
Mr. Sedbefi, I'm sorry, but you made a categorical accusation, and that is to say that the figures were being massaged by government. Now, what the Director General of the Ghana Health Service is saying that we may need to validate some of the figures being churned out by the regions to add them on to the national figures. That is not an admission that the figures are being massaged.
But did you know of this validation until now? If we hadn't even raised the issue, how would you even know that these figures were being validated? This had never come up until we raised those concerns. And the concerns weren't because we cooked up the numbers. The concerns were because Ashanti region has accurately reported 38 COVID-19 deaths. That is what Ashanti region has done. Okay. And the national system only accounts for 20 of that. So clearly, it's within our remit and our mandate to question the figures if the region from which the data is coming from says it's 38 and national says it's 20. It is only when we raised those issues that they came up with the idea that, look, we needed to validate all the deaths to find out if indeed they were COVID-19 deaths or not. You've been hearing the term being bandied around that these people or some people were dying simply because they had underlying health conditions. So far, we haven't heard that a single person died purely from COVID-19 and nothing else. But that's obviously because the virus already messes up people's, their immune system. And so whatever else that you have that is under there is what will kill you. We don't buy that idea at all because up until now, we hadn't even heard that numbers were being validated to find out if people were dying of the virus or not. But here's the thing I'm throwing at you. If you already know the number of people who are infected and you have, let's say, A, B, C people on the list of people who have tested positive for the virus, and then there's 38 of those people on your list who have died. Doesn't it therefore assume that those people probably died from the virus? Why then do you only accept 20 of them and leave out 18? Only for us to start questioning you, and then you come up with the idea that those extra 18 were figures that you were validating. Now, put that alongside the idea that government is held on having JHS 3 students, SHS final year students write exams. Doesn't it make sense, therefore, that probably the reason why these numbers aren't coming up all of a sudden or as soon as the regions turn them out is so that it becomes easier for us to all accept that things are businesses, returning as usual.
I want you to hold the line briefly for me, Mr. Sedbefian. Let's do some quick check in Kumasi. We're joined by Ohemin Teria, who is a member of our health desk. Ohemin, you've been cross-checking the figures as far as the death toll in the Ashanti region is concerned. What do we know?
Lisuzu.
By the Ghana Health Service, that's the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate, dated 13th June 2020, CTREV number 65. The death toll, that is COVID-19 related deaths in Ashanti region, stood at 38. And the report compiled by the Regional Health Directorate mentioned Kumasi Metro with 24 deaths, Obuasi Municipal 2, Obuasi East 2, Oforikrum 1, Amansie South District 1, Asokwa Municipal 1, Old Tafo Municipal 2, and then Ejiso 1, Afijakwabre South 2, Amansie Central 1, and then Adanse North District also with 1 reported death. So these are a situational report compiled by the Regional Health Directorate and sent to the National Headquarters on daily basis. And if you look at the editors are the regional health director, Dr. Emmanuel Tenkran, his two deputies, Dr. Yao Ofori Yabua and Dr. Rita Larson Reindorf, and two other officials from the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate. And if you look at the report compiled, it tells you that as at 13th June 2020, 5 deaths were recorded, making the number of deaths 38 in the Ashanti region.
Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on the situation in the Ashanti region as far as the COVID-19 death toll is concerned. We still have on the line the member of Occupy Ghana, Kweku Sedbefia. Now, you make other claims as well as far as the reagents at the various testing centers is concerned. How do you back the claim that they are running out of the reagents, which is causing the delay in the testing?
Well, we've been speaking to health professionals, we've been speaking to administrators of hospitals. And if you remember, many months ago when all this started and we began to complain and make noise about, the lack of PPEs and all of these things, government came out and said, no, they were not true, those things were in. And so there's always been this back and forth between us and government on what the situation on the ground is. But we are reliably informed that that is the situation, that in a lot of the hospitals, or in some of the hospitals, they've had to, create makeshift accommodations because of all these things that are happening. And we thought it was important to draw government's attention to that fact. But we need to focus really on why we're doing this. Ultimately, we want answers. And the answers we need is this. What are we doing? Are we aggressively trying to bring the disease down, or do we to aim for herd immunity? If we're aiming for immunity, then of course it makes sense to, lift the restrictions. It makes sense to open schools or begin a conversation towards opening schools. And it makes sense to do this because you are looking out for herd immunity. You're hoping that a lot of people will catch the disease. Most of them will live and develop antibodies to it, and few will die. This is really what we will be looking at if we really were.
So these are some of the questions that you're seeking answers from the Ghana Health Service. And I want to thank you very much, Kweku Sedbefia, for joining us here on Join East Prime. We're working the lines to see if we can get the Ghana Health Service to help us understand some of these figures and also the discrepancies that we're seeing from the Ashanti region. But we stay in the Ashanti region because the Ghana Medical Association is warning that COVID-19 mortalities there could increase if government does not step up a dedicated facility to receive positive patients. Regional President of the GMA, Dr. Pakwisi Bedu, reveals Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital is now receiving COVID-19 positive patients on the wards, a situation he says is increasing the risk of infection. He also hints more doctors at the hospital are getting infected due to the lack of personal protective equipment.
The situation here is dire at the moment, and the Accident and Emergency Center, which you see behind me, is the source of referral for many hospitals across the region and even beyond. So we have emergency cases coming here all the time.
The situation is really bad. If you look at the statistics from the Ghana Health Service, you realize most of the deaths are from here. And if you get to our hospital, you realize if you pass through the accident and emergency unit, you realize that they are expanding the holding area. Now, you go, previously we used to have the holding area, and then those who come back confirmed are subsequently transferred to the HIU, as we call it, at the other side of the hospital. But now there is a spillover. You get it, patients who have tested positive are being kept at the main hospital, at the emergency on the wards, and that is the situation. In addition, you realize that aside the system being under so much pressure, we have most of our colleagues getting infected. And I'm saying this because we of the Ghana Medical Association are collating the data on number of doctors who have gotten infected in the line of duty. and so we know the actual numbers. And I am saying this on authority that so many of our patients, of our colleagues, not doctors alone, but nurses and other staff are getting the infection.
Put a figure to it. How many are we talking about?
Yeah, on the last count, as I said, we're still gathering the data. On the national level, we have close to 80 doctors. We're collating the number of doctors who have it. I'm sure in the course of the week or next week, we'll get you the actual analysis of the doctors. But here, per my last count, it will be close to 15-20 of our colleagues in this hospital. And as I said, we're collating the data on them, and that's how come I know the actual numbers.
Now, you said that there is a spillover of patients. How do you mean when you say that?
You know, previously for every institution, we have holding areas, and then we have the treatment centers. When you come to Konfanoche, we used to have a holding area, which is a place they designated under the disaster building. I'm sure if you pass there, you see it. And then once your results comes and you are you've tested positive, you are moved to Poly. We have the highly infectious units where they treat. You have everything set up. But then the holding areas are full. And as we're talking now, we have patients who are kept at the accident and emergency unit. These are actual patients who have confirmed, the test confirms as COVID. So you go to the accident and emergency unit. That's the situation now. And
what is the danger in that?
You know, I don't want to overemphasize this, but you realize that we know the mode of transmission, and we know because it's highly infectious, that's why we have isolation centers. But then if you are keeping those who have already tested positive in a ward containing other patients who have other conditions, one, there's the risk of transmission, because you see, all the staff entering, right? If the positive patient is confirmed, the patient is confirmed positive and they are moved there, whoever is entering that unit should be fully protected.
Still in the Ashanti region, about 200 workers of the Kwadaso SDA hospital in Kumasi are undergoing COVID-19 tests after the hospital's medical director died of the disease. Some of the personnel are believed to have come into contact with the late 48-year-old Dr. Harry Owusu-Boateng, who passed on Saturday. Ohim Interior of our health desk has more in the following report.
Director of Ghana Adventist Health Services, Dr. Paul Amocheme, confirmed the sad news to Joy News. He explained a test on the late physician after his death proved positive for COVID-19 with what he describes as underlying conditions.
It is true that the medical director or medical superintendent at Kwadaso SDA Hospital in Kumasi has passed away on the 13th June 2020. When the news was reported to us, a team was dispatched to take a sample to test, to establish what might have led to the demise. And when the results came, it was established that it was due to COVID-19, yet with underlying health or medical conditions.
Adventist health authorities are collaborating with the Ashanti Regional and Kwadaso Municipal Health Directories to test all hospital staff. He assured of public safety and good quality care, asked the hospital's premises is fumigated and other preventive protocols strictly enforced.
We've put in all the necessary measures in place to screen them, pre-triaging and others. We strongly believe that some of our workers may be at risk, and for them to be on the safer side, it will be more expedient to test them all. So we've tested more than 200 workers. We've also fumigated the hospital, and now work is ongoing.
Late Dr. Boateng, described by colleagues as hard-working physician, had been working with the Kwadaso SDA Hospital since 2013. His demise has come as a shock to the medical fraternity and the public, especially patients who have experienced his work. Though some of the hospital staff have recorded positive COVID-19 cases, Dr. Boateng has become the first deaf casualty at the facility.
This is not the first time, but this is the first time that we have experienced a death from COVID in our facility. During the COVID pandemic, we put measures in place that every 2 weeks we test our staff to make sure that we are safe so that we can also take care of those who seek our services. So we provided all the necessary precautions and the infection prevention control measures put in place to help the facility and our staff.
From Kumasi, Ohimi Interior reporting.
I have more COVID-19 stories for you, but this one may put a smile on your face. There appears to be hope on the horizon for people living with COVID-19. Researchers in the UK say a cheap, widely available drug can help save the lives of patients seriously ill with coronavirus. Officials say the low-dose steroid treatment, dexamethasone, is a major breakthrough in the fight against the deadly virus. But what more do we know about this drug? Let's go onto Zoom now and speak to a pharmacist, Kwame Sapon-Esiedu. He joins us. Thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. First, should we be celebrating already the establishment of this drug as a potential cure for COVID-19? Well, Mr. I guess you have to unmute. I think you have muted your sound there. If you can unmute so we can hear you.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, we can hear you now. Kindly go ahead, sir.
It's a very difficult one for me because the story that ran before you asked me this question, someone I've known from childhood.
Okay.
Someone I grew up with, someone I swam with, someone I attended university with, someone I attended primary school with, someone whose elder brother I sat in the same classroom with when I got back to Ghana from England as a kid. So for me, that's the reality of COVID. Harry's death is a wake-up call for all of us. And for anyone who grew up on the campus of KNUST, then UST, at the time I was growing up, between 1979 and 1989. Having said that, and thinking of his soul and wanting his soul to rest in peace, I would say that dexamethasone is not something to be celebrated. Not because it is not a breakthrough, but it's what I call an adjunct to the management of COVID. It's not a cure. It is what in health we call a modulator to one of the main killers due to COVID, which is the cytokine storm. And when that happens, your body recognizes your organs, your heart, your lungs, your kidneys as foreigners. And then the army of your body, which is the immune system, starts attacking it. And what dexamethasone does is to break this chance of your body attacking your immune system and stopping the cytokine storm. So yes, it is a brilliant breakthrough. But the most important thing I want to say is that for people in Ghana, if anything, you need to be celebrating those at the forefront of managing this COVID fight. Because they've already been treating COVID and managing COVID with an adjunct of dexamethasone called prednisolone, and in some instances methylprednisolone, which may probably be a reason why our death rates, albeit the issues around is our data correct, might be slightly lower than the world average. And so that is how I'd want to situate this conversation.
And would you say the steroid we are using is much better than what the UK is telling us now, dexamethasone?
I wouldn't say it's better or worse. It is actually in the same family.
Okay.
So when you talk of medicines, you're always talking about what we call dose relations. So you probably would give dexamethasone at something like 2 milligrams and give prednisolone at 25 milligrams. But you get the same dose response, which then means that you get the same outcome in the case that you prevent death. But more importantly, the side effects would not be any different irrespective of the dose because they are drugs in the same family.
Now, for purposes of education, we saw what happened with chloroquine, with vitamin C, when it was announced as part of treatment for COVID-19. How available is this drug on the market? And if someone is listening to us or watching us right now who wants to get this, what will be your advice to that person?
Don't go and get it. This is a prescription-only medication. It's not a medication that needs to be managed with the layman.
Okay.
It needs to be managed with a health professional in direct control of the medication. The biggest issue with COVID is not to get the disease and try and self-medicate, which is what I want to expunge based on this conversation. The biggest issue is about preventing yourself from getting infected. Avoiding the infection requires social distancing, it requires washing your hands, it requires wearing your face mask, it requires using your sanitizers, it requires avoidance of crowds. That is the key issue. What is being put out, which I say already is happening in Ghana, is the fact that should you get infected and should you have comorbidities and should you go into crisis, there is now a bigger understanding of a medicine that can actually decrease your chances significantly of losing your life.
Absolutely, which is what researchers in the UK are actually telling us. Dr. Kwame Esiedisapon, thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. We appreciate the education you've given us on dexamethasone, which is being, claimed as a very good cure for COVID-19. Not a cure exactly, but part of the medication for patients who've tested positive for COVID-19. He joined us from the UK and we are grateful. You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Anas Mini. We're taking a break. When we return, the Electoral Commission is fighting off claims from the minority that it is phasing out 6,000 polling stations in the upcoming mass registration exercise.
Having listened to her, I feel profoundly troubled in my heart for the future of Ghana's democracy.
True. The cluster system basically means that when we begin the registration, we are going to start at certain specific registration centers.
You have details of this plus the latest in business after this break. Stay with us.
Hello.
This is UGMC COVID Connect.
I'm Dr. Wilfred Asma.
I understand you have a runny nose. It doesn't necessarily mean you have COVID-19, and that is why I need you to calm down so that we do the best we can to help you.
COVID Connect, a digital service, connects you to the medical team at the University of Ghana Medical Center for quality medical support, expert psychological counseling, testing, and in-hospital management. Access COVID Connect by downloading Lucy Vitals on Play Store or iOS. COVID Connect is brought to you by the UGMC, the Ministry of Health, and supported by the Farm Access Foundation.
Good day.
Every day.
Every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
What? Such bad results in my house? This you don't want to disgrace me, eh? Hey, Ayayi, Ishira, Adom,
Asida,
come here right now. Look at your results. B, C, B, C, B, C, no S. Why?
Honey, take this Calipo and cool down.
I will not cool down. This has never happened in the family. I was always first and never got B, C, B, C, B, C. Always A.
C, F, E, F, E, F, E, F, E. That's all the grade you had. Chinatsi. Abi, you know Dada.
Calipo, the natural fruit juice drink. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by
We Care. Your favorite Gino tomato mix is now enriched with vitamins, minerals, and fiber. So go on, enjoy your favorite jollof made with Gino.
Gino truly cares.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
This is what too much data from Vodafone is like.
What? You say Jai, it became butu.
You know what? There are plenty extravagant pre-wedding photo shoots on social media. They had all this lovey-dovey hashtag. I'm his fufu, she's my light soup.
You see now?
Missy, your photos were everywhere. WhatsApp, hey. Instagram, way. Facebook, hey. This is my battery. After all this, the guy didn't even show up for his own wedding.
You better sit down for what I'm about to tell you. It is shocking. The man is...
Oh!
Too much data is now double the data at the same price with too much data for the day and too much bonus from midnight till 4 a.m. Get 3GB data for 10 cedis, 8GB data for 20 cedis, and 20GB data for 50 cedis so you can stay home and stay connected. The only thing you need to worry about is keeping your battery up.
So we came to check up on you and also give you this gift.
So you people still they call this name? Do you even remember how it all came about?
Some years back, some paddy things say big truck go fit crash Duraplast PVC pipe. But like I always dey talk, if you want crash am, then unless since 1969, Duraplast they produce high quality standard PVC pipes plus fittings where they carry water go every home.
And since that time till now, Duraplast has introduced other amazing products such as the PVC and HDPE pipes, motorbox, Durablock, outlets, water tank, and many more.
So, young man, remember, where Duraplast goes, water flows. From the past 50
to the next 50 years and beyond.
Because they're strong.
Smile, Look lively, okay? Smile. Is the money too small?
A bad stomach ruins your day. Don't let it. Take Gastron, your most effective antacid, for the relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, heartburn, gas pain, flatulence, and indigestion.
Hey guys, what are you waiting for? Let's go.
Mwah. Can you bring down the smiles more?
Gastron, effective relief from stomach discomfort. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Good
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Sinamapeno. I'm here for business. In our first story tonight, Ghana's cocoa regulator, Cocoa Board, has described recent report by Bloomberg on their struggle to pay cocoa farmers as inaccurate. The Bloomberg report indicated that Cocoa Board is struggling to pay purchasing agents for beans bought from cocoa farmers as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Charles Aite engaged the head of corporate affairs at Cocoa Board, Fifi Boafo, on these figures and the state of the company amid the pandemic.
According to Bloomberg, the arrears of Cocoa Board to cocoa farmers was as high as 1.2 billion cedis, a development which questions Cocoa Board's viability amid the coronavirus pandemic. Head of Corporate Affairs for Cocoa Board, Fifi Boafo, argued that only 3 out of 54 cocoa buying companies are yet to be paid by the regulator.
It's not a case to say that we are struggling so much that we are unable to pay these companies. Yes, we made some payment to the 3 companies I'm referring to just last month, and our expectation is that by close of week we'll pay the 3 companies everything we owe them in full. So it's not a case that we are struggling and we are not finding solution as to how to pay these companies.
So far, there are concerns over the fate of the $1.3 billion cocoa syndication loan. Looking at the turn of events, Cocoa Board believes accessing the syndication for the next cocoa crop season will not be affected in any way.
Obviously, this is the time you would expect that we have gone to do our roadshow, but because of COVID, like the president said, we are not in normal times. So the normal way of doing things has changed a little bit, but we are on course, and our expectation is that we will be able to raise the money needed for our operations next year. So yes, we are on course. The figure that was initially pegged has not changed. We are still working with the same figure. Of course, if it happens that based on our projections something would change, we shall communicate it. But as I speak to you today, that has not changed.
The coronavirus pandemic has had an effect on the global value chain of cocoa. While difficult to estimate future import and export sales, the pandemic more broadly is biting hard on a sector that already contributes up to 10% of Ghana's GDP.
The Minister of Finance and the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority have launched a new tax audit and quality assurance department aimed at improving the audits of Ghana's tax regime. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is optimistic the department will deepen confidence in taxpayers, especially when COVID-19 is eroding revenue margins. There's more in the following report.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta decried the low level of confidence by taxpayers in the service rendered by auditors on tax returns. He believes the Tax Audit and Quality Assurance Department will go a long way to address these outstanding issues.
We will make these changes, and I really would like to acknowledge Commissioner General for this bold step. We will step on toes, we will make some honest mistakes, but we will have open doors for dialogue and feedback. We will aggressively venture into uncharted waters, we will be friendly, we will need allies, and above all, we will need the support of all Ghanaians to collect all revenue due to the state.
On his part, Commissioner General of the GRA, Amisha Dayawosu-Amoah, stated that the GRA will leverage on the Tax and Audit Assurance Department to expand the tax net and improve revenue generation.
We will also make use of data such that we ensure that we'll be able to match our data from one government agency into our systems, from one government agency into both the domestic and the customs system, to ensure that at any point in time, if there's somebody who is, has in database in DVLA, it's at the same time being able to pay the equivalent of whatever he's demonstrating DVLA in taxes.
Showing that certain returns can be filed and payments made directly into the account, but there are challenges. But that has its challenges. For example, it is sometimes difficult for the GRA to determine the type of tax for which payment was made, and in addition, the period for which the payment was made.
In other news tonight, Finance Ministry targets almost 17 billion cedis securities for third quarter. Details in the business news summary, which is next.
Period between June to August this year, the government plans to issue securities to the tune of 17,836,087 pesos, of which 15,806,061 pesos is to roll over maturities, and the remaining 2,031,026 pesos fresh insurance to meet government financing requirements. This is according to the Bank of Ghana. The central bank said it expects that the 2020 June to August calendar will meet the requirements of market participants. The Ghana Revenue Authority has directed its customs division at the port to resume normal operations as their shift system, which was put in place due to measures to check the spread of COVID-19, has been cancelled. The move is part of urgent steps being taken by the GRA to ensure that the backlog of uncleared goods at the port due to challenges faced with the newly introduced Integrated Customs Management System (ICUMS) management managed by Unipass is handled quickly. Private legal practitioner has petitioned Vodafone Ghana's mother company, the Vodafone Group UK, of allegations of privacy rights violations. According to Francis Quartin Arthur's solicitors, Artbridge Solicitors, the petition was necessitated by the nonchalant posturing of Vodafone Ghana in the middle of the most extensive threat to privacy rights in Ghana's history and one of the most extensive in the world.
And the Chamber of Pharmacy Ghana and Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association are threatening to withdraw services to some medical stores across the country. When I come back after 8 p.m., I have the details for you in business. Thanks so much for watching.
Breakfast a day. Every day. Every day.
Nestle. Good food, good life.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
We have 3 mandates, which is to teach, to conduct research, and also to offer community service.
We are affiliated to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and partnering with the University of Utah.
When I was looking for a place to study public health in Ghana, NSI was my first choice. We have all the resources here to get the work done.
I find that when students come here, they put all their efforts into this, and by the end, they surprise themselves.
We have lectures starting Thursday in the afternoon, Friday, and then Saturday.
For a student to be admitted to the Ensign College, they need to have completed a bachelor's program.
If you come here to study, there should be no single reason why your study cannot be successful.
Deadline for the submission of admission forms has been extended to Tuesday, 30th June 2020. Apply now. Ensign College, leading the future of health.
When I was young, I asked my mother the secret of hair vitality and health. She said, the right food, the right exercise, the right amount of sleep, and the right blood tonic. Nescafe Blood Tonic is effective for the treatment of anemia, lack of appetite, and stressful conditions in both adults and children.
Nescafe Blood Tonic, the right family blood tonic. Another quality product from Ernest Chemists. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
evening. It's a pleasure to come your way with the Sports on Prime. I'm Oreku Ampofo. Let's now do some women's football news. And the GFA Executive Council has appointed now defunct Normalization Committee member Na Odofole and Madam Habiba Ataforsen to provide a roadmap for the game in the country. CEO of Rich City, Cleopatra Nketia, has been speaking to my colleague Susan Owusu-Ansah, and she filed this report.
Following the global pandemic, which brought sporting events in the country to a halt, the GFA Executive Council took advantage of the lack of activities to review the image of women's football in Ghana. In a meeting last week, the GFA appointed now defunct Normalization Committee member Na Odofole Norte and Executive Council member Habiba Ataforsen to provide a roadmap for the women's game. CEO of Rich City Women FC and a member of the Women's League Board, Cleopatra Nketia, offered suggestions on the 3 core things the 2-member team must recommend to the association.
First of all, grassroots football, grassroots football, grassroots football. I think it's the favorite thing that any footballer likes to say, grassroots football, coaches, everybody. And the reason why I mention grassroots football is because if we don't pay attention to grassroots football, if we don't pay attention to the bottom of the food chain, if we don't pay attention to that, football isn't going to go anywhere, both in the men's side and the women's side. We are noticing that if you watch football, we're always laughing about how people are changing their age. It's because we never paid attention to the grassroots football. But I think that if we can have an army of girls who from age 5 started learning how to play football, we will start to do better when they get to the national team, when they get to the Black Queens. Second thing is the facility. Women don't have anywhere to train and play football. Of course, yeah, there are Sakura parks, there are grass pitches, there are places to play football, but it's not good. That we need the most in women's football, the marketing, the branding, the packaging. If women's football is not something that can be marketed, there's nothing that we do that can help us in any way. Fine, we have the girls playing, we have the facilities there, but if we don't brand it and we don't package it in such a way that people will be interested in it, the girls' careers will never go anywhere.
She believes there's a disparity between women and men's football in Ghana that must be bridged with the right initiatives.
The women's clubs that are trying their best, but nobody knows anything about them. I myself didn't know much about women's football in Ghana till I got into it. And I realized that, listen, there's a gap, there's a space there, there's something that's missing. And I could sit down and tweet about it and complain about how the GFA isn't doing anything, about how people aren't doing anything about it, or I can get involved myself and do what I can do about it. My last word is, well, give women's football a chance. Let's see what we can what can happen if we focus on women's football and then just try to give it a chance. So, yeah.
The Women's League second round was about resuming before the outbreak of COVID-19. The recommendations are expected to influence the image of women's football when the game resumes.
Let's now head to Europe, where it's been over 3 months since the English Premier League was suspended indefinitely. And after weeks of embarking on Project Restart, the Premier League returns tomorrow with a big mouth-watering fixture between Manchester City and Arsenal. It has a special rivalry between the two sides because Pep Guardiola, who's the master of Manchester City, would be hosting his apprentice Mikel Arteta.
Season started with so much hope, so much promise. We saw glimpses of the magical, the magnificent. Momentum was building, another glittering prize already won. We had so much still to play for. And then the season stopped. Everything, everywhere, stopped. Time stood still. But so many stood strong. Our support turned to those on the front line. We missed family. We missed friends. We missed our city. But slowly, step by step, they began to come back, ready to go, switched on, focused. Some things will have to be different. some things will never change. Because right now, we're not really here. But for this team, for this club, for this badge, for this city, wherever we are, we'll always be there.
For the Premier League, it is Project Restart. For Manchester City, it would look like Project Impossible as they trail Liverpool by 25 points. Could they possibly perform a miracle and climb Liverpool? We would see, as time definitely would tell. But that wraps it up for the first part of the sports segment here on Prime. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and do remember to stay safe.
Celebrating 25 years
of joy.
To our audience, the chiefs and people of Ghana, we say Baraka.
Now, on the international front, an American Christian missionary has pleaded guilty in a U.S. court to sexually abusing young girls at an orphanage he stated he started in Kenya. Gregory Doe, 61, admitted to 4 counts of engaging in illicit sexual conduct with a minor in a foreign place. The orphanage was in operation from 2008 to 2017 when Mr. Doe left Kenya. The FBI and Kenya authorities investigated him and he was charged in the U.S. In 2008, Doe founded the orphanage in Western Kenya. It was partly funded by churches in Lancaster, in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania, reports local newspaper LPN says. Now, he's accused of assaulting girls from 2013. 2 of the girls were 11, 1 was 12, and another 13. And that's it for World News.
Joy Prime, real entertainment.